Well, today was a pretty mundane day. Went to work, did the normal administrative tasks that I typically do, and I have a good life. I'm not overworked. I've got a pretty good work-life balance. All things considered, no reasons in the world to complain. And yet sometimes I do resent my job. And I guess the reason I resent it is actually, ironically, because it's easy. Because really my job is just to do all of the little trivial things that my boss doesn't feel like doing. Like, for example, we're in the office and my boss says, "Hey, can you call this guy and talk to him about this order that we want to do for something?" So I pick up the phone, call this guy, and I'm talking to him about this trivial business. And then my boss comes over, and now he's standing there leaning up against the file cabinet because he wants to weigh in on the conversation. And that's kind of awkward, right? Because, like, I'm on the phone with this person, and now, like, this isn't really a Zoom call. This is not a three-way conversation. And I'm thinking to myself, I just took the 2 minutes necessary to pick up the phone and call this guy. And now you're running over here to kind of add your 2 cents, sort of. So why didn't you just pick up the phone and call the guy? I mean, if you want to weigh in on the conversation, then why not just have the conversation yourself? And it's all this little time stuff, you know? It's not like it's in any way an imposition on my day. That's not what it's about. It's just, you start thinking, man, why am I spending my life doing this stupid stuff? I mean, I only have so much time in my life to do things. And sometimes it feels like people waste our time. And I guess that's really at the heart of a lot of the things that frustrate me. It's that feeling that my time is being wasted. It's not that I want other people to do anything in particular for me. Like, it's not that I expect things are going to go my way necessarily. It's not that I have demands. It's just, I don't want my time to be wasted by people that are going to hold me up so that all this time in my life goes by. And it's kind of like life's on pause. Because instead of doing things meaningful, I'm on this treadmill of trivial things. It's like when you have an MMO and you log into it every single day and you do your dailies and you get your login bonus, and you never actually enjoy any questing. You never really go on any adventure because you're always just doing the dailies over and over again. And at some point it just gets boring and gets frustrating, and you start thinking, if that's all you think I'm good for, to do these basic, simple tasks, even if it's easy and even if it makes my life positive in the sense I'm compensated well for what I do, it can still feel like it's disrespectful because it's not respecting my ability to use my talents to their fullest potential. It's like, suppose I said, all right, I'm going to take whatever money you currently make in your job, and I'm going to pay you twice that. So you're going to get a good pay raise. You're going to get twice as much money as you currently are getting. Only thing is, instead of asking you to do more, I'm going to tell you to come to my house, and you're going to sit in the corner, you're going to stare at the wall. And you're going to do that 8 hours a day. And if I want a cup of coffee, then you come and pour a cup of coffee for me. That's the only thing I need from you. Other than that, I just want you to stare at the wall. But don't complain about it, because I'm going to pay you twice as much money as you were making before. And on one hand, you're going to think to yourself, man, oh, that's a good deal. You know, I just got a 100% pay raise, right? So why would I be indignant about this? Well, it's because you're worth more than just staring at the wall all day. That's the reason. Unless you just have no motivation, you have no self-esteem or something, then sure, I guess you don't care. But more and more in life, I don't like people wasting my time. I don't like to waste my time myself. I don't like to waste my own time. Like, it bothers me when I realize that I have a certain amount of time. Like, I get off work, I have time, and then I didn't do very much with that time I had. I think, man, why did I spend 5 hours in the evening and I didn't really catch up on any big projects? I didn't really do anything. I just kind of sat there. And that bothers me, because there's that sense of I need to be doing something that is valuable or rewarding in some way with my time. And so I guess the moral of the story here is just that time is often more valuable than money. And it's not to say that you should be jumping up and down trying to bring down more difficulty on yourself. I'm not saying that. It's just sometimes you can feel disrespected because you're abused in some way. And then other times you can feel disrespected because you're not challenged. And both of those are valid, which can be a reason for reevaluating your life and saying, you know, how can I get more value out of the things that I'm doing and the ways that I am spending my time? I think there's a lot of cases where somebody's maybe quit a job and they wind up looking back on it, and even if they made less money afterwards, they're glad that they left, because they know that they left behind something that was a waste of their time, and they traded it for something meaningful. And to illustrate what I'm getting at here, there's people who volunteer their time for charity, for something in the community that's important to them, and they may not get paid anything for that. And they might continue to do it for many years of their life and feel rewarded in doing so, because what they get out of it is not just the money. And then there's people who can get paid quite a bit of money and they can be disenfranchised with what they're doing. So all of that to say, don't be too motivated by money. Money is a tool, but really what matters most is that you find ways to do things that are valuable to you in a way that doesn't really have anything to do with money. There's balance. Doesn't mean that you're going to go quit your job just because it's boring and then make no money. But there's so many things in life that waste our time. And I think it all comes back to, what fruit does it bear in your life? And always ask yourself that question and try to find things that bring joy into your life. And life is really too short to be spending it in some sort of frustration, waiting for that payoff. And we believe in that. We think that's responsibility, right? I'm going to do something that sucks, and the more it sucks, the more it probably builds character. So I'm going to just kind of make myself a glutton for punishment. And then one day it'll pay off. Grind my whole life, and then one day it'll pay off. But it doesn't really pay off. Or is it just a lot of years spent doing things that were not bearing good fruit in your life because you refused to let them go? And, maybe that's just kind of a foolish way to live. Because really we should spend our whole lives every day, get up and do things that bring value into our life, and be proud of the things we're doing, and find a way to challenge ourselves without being subject to abuse, I guess. Just something to think about, How do we spend our time, and do we respect ourselves? Do we surround ourselves with people who respect us? And I think sometimes we can surround ourselves with people who don't respect us, and we don't even realize it. Because, what is respect? Is it someone who, thinks they respect you, but they don't really act respectful? I mean, that's right there. That's a big topic. Because it's so easy to say, oh, well, this person is a good person. This person loves me. This person cares. And they don't really act like they care. But I'm going to say they care. They just have something going on. They have their stuff that they're working through, and they care. It's just they're complicated. Well, no, that's not really true. Like, if they cared, they would back it up with actions that prove that they care. If a person wants to empower you, they're not going to always be trying to control you. If a person loves you, they're not going to always be ignoring you. If a person believes in your ability, they're not always going to be refusing to give you any form of responsibility over anything meaningful. You see, you can tell how people see you on a basis of their actions, not their words. And sometimes, especially when we don't feel like we have a lot in our lives, we overlook the red flags and we put blinders on, because it's a lot easier to say, I'm loved and I'm surrounded by people who want the best for me. And if it doesn't feel like that's really true, that's just my problem and I'm projecting. It's easier to say that than it is to face the truth, which is people have ulterior motives for just about everything they do, and you can't really trust people 100%. So maybe what I'm getting at is you have to be your own ally. You have to go to bat for yourself, and you have to set your own boundaries. Because if you trust other people to do what's right for you, they will ultimately continue to push your boundaries until you don't have any boundaries left. One thing I find is true is people will start to tell you what's wrong with your life and how you should change before they even know anything about your life, they will start to weigh in their 2 cents on how you could potentially change. And those same people may be miserable in their own life. They might have all sorts of problems going on, but they'll still be the first ones to come along and tell you what's wrong in your life. It's people who are going to cast the speck out of the eye of others while they have a log or a stick stuck in their own eye. Sometimes I think the best thing you can do is just live every day thinking selfishly and avoid going down the path of really having that sense we're all in it together. Because in the end, we're kind of not. Doesn't mean we can't share a journey to a point, but what happens when you take something that's meant to be a temporary passing and you make it a permanent fixture in your life? You know, it's like people that play this game I'm playing right here, like New World. I see a lot of people in the community and they talk about how much New World is a terrible game. It's just got that reputation of being a terrible game. And it's not a perfect game. But, you know, New World is not a terrible game either. It's one of the more beautiful MMOs out there. It's free to play, doesn't require a subscription. It's got a lot of mechanics that are pretty elegant, pretty cool. Like the harvesting is great. The combat feels impactful. In many ways, the world is much more beautiful. It's non-instanced. I could just go on and on. There's things I could say that are negative about the game, and there's a lot of things that are really groundbreaking and innovative and a great bargain about New World. But there's people and they'll say, well, the game sucks. And then you find out that they spent 2,000 hours in the game already. So you're saying that the game sucks and you spent 2,000 hours playing it. You know, I play Cities Skylines and I have played that game for 1,000 hours. And that 1,000 hours is spread over 10 years. So that's one of my favorite games. And so imagine that you take the equivalent of what for me was 10 years of playtime in that game and put that into 2 years instead of 10 years. And I mean, that's a lot of hours sunk into the game, right? So you've put that much time into it and then you still think it sucks? Like, no, it's not the game. It's that you took something which was supposed to be a game that's just, you know, light entertainment, really. And then you decided it was supposed to be expansive enough to be a permanent lifestyle. And no game has enough content to satisfy that kind of expectation. And it's the same thing with people. Sometimes we want somebody to be a complete fulfillment for everything we need. And we want to be able to trust them unconditionally, and we want there to be no limits. We want there to be no endings. But the truth is there's a limit to how much you can trust people. There's a time and a season and a place for everything. And sometimes you have to accept people are meant to be in your life for a period of time. And then after that, sometimes it's also time to move on. You can trust people, you can love people, but then you also have to have boundaries about what you'll accept, what you will allow them to do, what you will protect yourself from and not allow them to do. And you have to understand that not everything is meant to be an end-all, be-all. Not everything is meant to be permanent. And, you know, you can love something, you can cherish an experience, and you can also say, this experience is not necessarily going to be forever. It's like You know, I've been thinking about other games that I enjoy. I really enjoyed Genshin Impact. I enjoyed The Elder Scrolls Online. I like Albion Online. These are games I enjoy. And I also haven't wanted to play them very much lately. That's the truth. As a matter of fact, I canceled my subscriptions to these games. Because you know what I realized? I realized I log into Elder Scrolls Online just so that I can say I logged in for the day, and then I log out, and I don't want to play it anymore today. And that's every day. Same thing with Genshin Impact. I think, well, one of these days I'm going to catch up on all the quests and I'm going to, you know, dive into it more. But the reality is I just pay for the $5 a month thing to get the crystals, and that's it. I log in, get my daily bonus, and log out. Same thing with Albion Online. I think to myself, well, one of these days I'll, you know, maybe I'll do something more. Maybe I'll join a guild. Maybe I'll go do some, you know, Black Zone content. Maybe I'll venture out more. Maybe I'll you know, take it to the next level. But the reality is I log in, I check my farm, I do my daily crops, I get my daily login bonus, I log out. That's it, you know? And if that's all it is, you know, I have a lot of games in my library that I want to play. So why would I pay all this money for these games that require a subscription when the reality is I don't really enjoy playing them? And the reason for this is it's that sense of loyalty. It's that sense of, well, I started something, so I have to finish it. And I love, you know, some aspect of this game world. I like how I felt when I first played it, so I need to keep on playing it. It's that desire. You don't want to betray something, you know? And the reality is you can enjoy something, and then you can also say, this isn't going to be forever. This is something I'm going to spend some time doing, and then I'm going to maybe take a break from it. Maybe I'm never going to play this game again. Doesn't mean I can't enjoy and still cherish the experience I had while I was playing it. You know, you can love people and then they can move on, not be part of your life anymore, and you can still cherish the time you had with them. You can play a game and then stop playing the game, and you can still love the game world that you fell in love with when you first started playing it. You can appreciate what people have done for you, and then also understand that there's something about them that's toxic and harmful too. So therefore you have boundaries. And I think that balance is a hard thing to master, but I think it's an important thing to master, because on one hand, we want to be, you know, totally write things off and say, I'm going to close this chapter, I'm going to be done with it. And on the other side of it, we want to keep on overlooking the obvious, which is that, you know, by their fruits you will know them. So if something doesn't bear good fruit in your life, you probably should just accept that it's not something you need to have in your life right now. And taking a break doesn't mean you can't ever come back either. If you really miss something, you can always go back to it. If something changes, if the dynamics of a situation change, you can always change your policy toward that thing and return to it at a later time when the time is right. But you don't have to be always bought in 100% to things, and it's not an act of betrayal to establish boundaries in your life. Always be glad for what you have, be thankful for your blessings, and realize that sometimes what's a blessing today isn't going to be a blessing forever, because a lot of things in our lives are just, they're stepping stones. They're things that we need in our life. They help us along the way, but they're just one waypoint in what is ultimately a broader journey. And as with all journeys, they usually involve moving on, not permanently staying in one place. So always be committed to what you're doing right now, but don't be so attached that you can't move on too. Good luck on your journey, wherever you find yourself. Till next time. Thanks for watching.